found the sword, huh?
Ah!
Who are you?
I'm you.
You can't be me. I'm me. I, too, am me. Wait, what?
Me too!
Alright, everyone, shut up and let me figure this out. There's green shirt me, sexy me, cave me, and me. That makes four of me. That's one too many.
The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures is a different sort of Zelda game. If you're a fan of the Zelda series, then you already know how the games work. You journey across Hyrule, find new items to solve puzzles, and seal Ganon away. Trust me, I've played almost every Legend of Zelda game there is. All but one. Well, 4 if you count those god-awful CDI games, but I like to pretend those don't exist. The only one I haven't played is the 4 Swords. It was exclusive to the Game Boy Advance, and that's not to say that I didn't have it. I had a cartridge for the GBA that had A Link to the Past and the 4 Swords on it, but in spite of having the game, I could not play it. There wasn't anything wrong with my copy of the game, it's just that in order to play the 4 Swords, you absolutely needed to have 4 players, each with their own Game Boy Advance, their own copy of the game, and 3 link cables to connect the Game Boys together. There was no single-player mode in the original release, but there was in the 4 Swords Anniversary Edition, which I didn't know existed until I started writing the script for this video, and is no longer available because it was only on the 3DS eShop for a limited time. And Nintendo done went shut down the 3DS eShop a couple years ago, so as things stand now, it's very unlikely that I will ever get to play the 4 Swords, unless it gets remade again. The 4 Swords Adventures, on the other hand, is a direct sequel to the 4 Swords, picking up sometime after Link had sealed away the Wind Sorcerer Vaati. The weather gets bad and Zelda calls Link over saying, "You know what? Just 'cause the weather's bad, let's go to where Vaati's imprisoned inside the 4 Sword." An evil shadowy doppelganger of Link appears, takes Zelda and the 6 maidens away, and runs off into the sanctuary of the 4 Sword. Link goes in after them, and then he decides, instead of grabbing a sword from the armory, let's pull the 4 Sword from the pedestal, knowing good and well that will release Vaati, who he had worked so hard to seal away just a couple of months ago. And the game begins. But did Nintendo... Green shirt, go after him! I'm on it. As I was saying, did Nintendo learn their lesson about the mandatory multiplayer? Yes. Did they find a way to do the multiplayer wrong again? Also yes. While you can play the game by yourself with no problem, the multiplayer, on the other hand, is a little more difficult. For multiplayer, each player needs a Game Boy connected to the GameCube to be used as a controller. In single-player mode, you can just use a regular controller, and whenever you go into a cave or a house, this smaller screen appears labeled Game Boy Advance SP. Now, if you were using an actual Game Boy, these would be displayed on the Game Boy itself, and up on the TV, just an outside view of the place you're in. Now, imagine if 2 or more players were going through the game using normal controllers. You could have 2 to 4 of these displays going on at once, each one color-coded, or better yet, labeled for each player. But this might be more than the GameCube could handle. And if you had 1 person up top and 3 in a cave, I can see how this might be a problem, with the 1 person up top not being able to see past the Game Boy screens, or the others not being able to see very well with these displays being shrunk down to make room for the other mini-screens and whoever's outside. Because of the way this game is built, I can understand the necessity for the Game Boy connection in a multiplayer scenario, but still, needing to buy not only a separate system, but also a cable to connect it to the main console can be frustrating. While playing through this game in co-op with my older brother over the course of one summer is one of the fondest memories I have, I'm still mad that we had to buy all these extra things to make it happen. But I will give it that the required Game Boy connection here makes a lot more sense than it does in Crystal Chronicles. As for the game itself, I already said it's a different sort of Zelda game. For starters, there's no overworld. You get thrown into a stage select where each section of Hyrule is divided into 3 levels. You fight your way through hordes of enemies, solve some puzzles, your typical Zelda fare. Along the way, you'll find heart containers, which, as you probably already know, raise your maximum health. But these only last until the end of the stage. In the next level, you're right back to having 4 hearts. And the items, like the boomerang or the bombs, they work like you'd expect, but you can only have one at a time. The game always gives you the item you need for the challenge ahead. Sometimes you need to choose from several items and figure out which one is best for hitting the switches you need to hit, or you'll need one of them to set up the solution and then have to go back and grab another to carry it out. Unless you're playing with a friend, then each player can have a different item. Then we have the Force Gems. You need a lot of them. With 2,000 Force Gems, your swords are powered up. In this state, you can shoot your sword beams at full health. You can charge up a super spin attack. When done in formation, it practically turns the Lynx into a human chainsaw. And with the powered up sword, you are able to break the barrier at the end of each stage and move on to the next. There are also some enemies that can take Force Gems away from you, but if you've already hit the 2,000, then you won't lose the power-up if you drop below. And finally, there's Tingle. Whenever there's a Force Gem worth 100 or more sitting on the ground, Tingle will fly in with his balloon and steal it. But he's not all bad. He also leaves signs around. Some of them are helpful, and others are, wait, Tingle wants to play too? If you discover the kid's whereabouts, play a while for Tingle's sake? Search till your eyes are bloodshot and weary! This man left us a sign telling us to stalk children! Of all the things I could go to prison for, that is not going to be one of them!
Hey, no! Give back for the juice! Caveman us is trying to drink the bleach. Oh, for the love of... Sexy, take the bleach and hide it.
I can't.
What do you mean you can't?
My hands are full.
So put the rose down!
Not possible. See, this is actually a tumor that's fused my fingers together. It just happens to look like a rose.
What?
Doctors are still trying to figure out how in the hell it happened.
Whatever, just keep Cave Me away from the bleach. It's hard enough trying to play the game with this sword in my hand without having to babysit that stupid bastard.
You know that stupid bastard is you.
Yes, I know that stupid bastard is me!
When playing in single player, the default is you control Green Link and the rest trail behind you. When you're doing this, Green Link is the only one that does anything, and the only one that takes damage. The others are kinda invincible. You can switch between the 4 links and even pick one up and throw them over small gaps. Then there are 4 different formations you can take, lined up vertically, horizontally, square, and diamond. When in formation, the links all act as one, swinging their swords together, allowing you to hit enemies up to 4 times at once, using items in unison and lifting or pushing objects that would normally be too heavy for just one link. While the formations allow you to combine their strengths, it also combines their weaknesses. When in formation, all of the links can be hit, and since they share the same hearts, it makes you a bigger target. You need to think what the best formation is for the situation, or if it's best to not use any formation at all. Even if you get yourself killed, it's not a big deal, because you have Force Fairies. They're your extra lives. You die, and they revive you on the spot. You can find them in some levels, and at the end of each level, every 1,000 Force Gems you have becomes another fairy. And you'll get a lot of them, and I mean a lot. more than you'll ever need. You'll never have to worry about getting a game over, even if you're playing recklessly, even if you get caught by multiple one-hit kill giant bombs. The only time I could see getting a game over is if you get yourself killed intentionally, but good luck burning through the 80 fairies you have sometime this year. As for the story, you release Vaati and pursue Shadow Link across Hyrule, rescuing the 6 maidens as you go, also collecting the royal jewels that are guarded by the Knights of Hyrule who were corrupted and turned into monsters. You go to make sure the Dark Mirror is safe, but it has been stolen. Eventually, you come to the Gerudo Desert where they tell you that Ganondorf went to the Forbidden Pyramid, so you go there yourself and find out he took a trident filled with evil power and became Ganon. Rescue more maidens, find more jewels, go through enough of these sections where Shadow Link throws giant bombs to drive even the most peaceful Buddhist monk to violence, save Zelda, retrieve the Dark Mirror, cutting off the source of Shadow Links, slay Vaati, and seal Ganon away, restoring peace to the kingdom. You know, typical Zelda stuff. The battles aren't too hard, the puzzles are simple enough that you can solve them without needing a walkthrough, even for the real puzzle-heavy levels like the Village of the Blue Maiden, where you gotta go into the Dark World and race against a clock for some Pegasus boots to ram people out of the way, and grab a lamp so you can reach this person, and this girl gives you a letter to her boyfriend, and he gives you a feather to jump across a hole to grab a book for the witch in the Dark World who accidentally stole his house so she can put it back and open the way forward. If there's something you could potentially get stuck on, there's usually an NPC or a sign that gives you a hint as to what needs to be done. Like this Deku Scrub who tells you not to bomb the top and bottom of the room he's in so you can push it around and use it as a bridge. Or in the Palace of Winds, there's this sign that tells you you can jump into the Dark World and grab one of the other links up top and carry him across the chasm. There is only one arbitrary puzzle in the entire game that doesn't give you a hint. You'll come to this room with pots and these mole things. Now what's the first thing you would think to do? If it isn't to pound the moles to match the pattern of the pots, then you're wrong. There's no sign around to nudge you toward the answer. You have to figure that out all on your own. The combat is surprisingly more than just mashing the B button to swing your sword. With directional inputs, you can get different attacks going. One in particular is flicking the control stick in any direction and hitting B at the same time for a powerful lunging attack. The shields that the links have glued to the front of themselves automatically block incoming ranged attacks and sword swipes from some enemies, and the Shadow Links can do that too, plus a dodge roll. This gives a lot more depth to the combat than you'd expect from a 2D Zelda game. I've already mentioned the Game Boy display for insides of places. Sometimes this switches us to more of a side-scrolling sort of gameplay, and one thing I've noticed about this is that Link can roll up ladders. Once in a while, you'll get shot out of a cannon to leave the Game Boy, and whenever this happens, the ground deforms a little where you come flying out. It's a cool little detail that also happens when a giant bomb goes off, leaving an indentation in the ground that slowly pops back into shape. And when you charge up the hammer, the deformations spread out in a wave, also revealing things hidden in the ground. I've always loved that about this game, and other small details like the music being distorted when you go into the Dark World. Nintendo might not be great at making accessible multiplayer, they may be giant babies when it comes to copyright, but damn it, they know how to polish their games. Aside from the scam they ran with the multiplayer system and very tight timing on these lily pad launch things in the swamp and that one hintless mole thing in the Palace of Winds, The Legend of Zelda 4 Swords Adventures is incredibly fun, especially with somebody to play it with. I'd highly recommend playing it yourself, but the multiplayer probably won't be happening unless you know somebody with all the necessary equipment, unless they re-release it on the Switch with online play, or better yet, put out a new multiplayer Zelda. We're a little overdue, seeing how the last one was released nearly 10 years ago.
And that was The Legend of Zelda, The 4 Swords Adventures. Wait, where's the bleach? cave, you ran off with it.
I told you to! Let's go find him. And why am I still holding the sword? Wait, no, don't put it away! Ah!
Oh, that's not good.
But did Nintendo... I broke the ladder. We won't be using this anymore. But did Nintendo...